Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paula Panczenko, and I want to welcome you all to Tandem Press and the Jazz Studies program at the UW-Madison Mead-Witter School of Music. We are pleased to present the third year of the Tandem Press Friday Jazz Series. We're delighted to welcome you all here, and those of you who are listening to us live on the web. This series is made possible with the incredible support of the Brittingham Fund, and the live streaming is brought to you by Audio for the Arts with the most generous financial support of Kathy Chazen, class of 71, and Larry Miller. This program could not have happened without Johannes Wallmann, the John and Carolyn Peterson Chair in Jazz Studies, and his colleagues John Schaefer, Jonathan Greenstein, Nick Moran, and tonight featuring Les Thimmig. I also want to thank the incredible music students who will be playing for you tonight. The program tonight will feature the Jazz Composers Group, which will be led by Professor Les Thimmig. During the intermission, our curators and master printers will give you tours of the studio. And for those of you listening at home, there will be a short interview on the workings of the press. We also want to let you know that we will have a holiday open house from 10 to 4 on December 16th, a Saturday, where there will be actual printmaking demonstrations. But tonight, let's all listen to the Jazz Composers Group and welcome again. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon and welcome to our show. As previously announced, we are the UW Jazz Composers Group, so named because all the music we play was written in one way or another by members of the UW Jazz community. So, and so you're gonna hear some of my music tonight, but maybe more important than that, you're gonna hear music by two of the members of this group. They're writing as well. So that's our fun, is to play our own writing. Right? So that opening number is named for a character that used to hang out at New York's #1 big-time pool hall back in the old days. Maybe some of you remember 1960 movie with Jackie Gleason and Paul Newman, The Hustler, right? Remember? There was Ames was the name of the pool hall, right? Well, that was a very thinly disguised version of McGurr's, which is located right near Times Square on 45th Street. And it used to be, I'm not much of a pool player myself, but it used to be fun to go in there and just watch all these guys play and everything. And so I've written a series of tunes kind of dedicated to some of the people in there. So that's a crazy little character whose name was Little Lunchbag Louie, and that's the name of that song, right? Little he was, where the lunch bag came from, there's different opinions on that, but that he was something, right? We're going to continue now with, well, let's see, that was the 1960 film. Let's back up a year, 1959. I bet another one, you movie fans remember a joint French and Brazilian feature, Orfeo Negro, Black Orpheus. There was the Orpheus and Eurydice story set in Rio at Carnival time. Wonderful, wonderful film. And that was, I was about 17 years old at that time. And I took one look at the star of that film, and as you can only do when you're 17, I fell madly in love. Never did get a chance to meet her, but I did write a song for her. Her brilliant, beautiful young actress by the name of Marpessa Dawn. And so this is a Brazilian samba kind of music that titled Marpessa. ensemble. Speaking of Mr. Jordan Kowalski, our drummer. See that? When you're ready to, they haven't heard a note yet, and all over here. That's why some of us left or right. You know, a little extra measure of attention. It's good. Yeah. So this is something that we're kind of introducing for the first time. Just finished up this past week, I think. Jordan calls this one longing. Once again, just a little bit more for Mr. Kowalski, the composer. Right. Jordan. In this band, writers reign supreme, believe me. We all love to play, but the writing is special. Yeah. So we're going to slow things down a little bit. First of all, I want to give, there's a question that always seems to come up. When we take an intermission or when we're packing up at the end, people will walk up and give comments and all kinds of, there seems to be a couple of questions that always seem to come up. And so we're going to answer them in advance. It has to do with the instruments, right? I mean, everybody knows what a bass is and a trombone and so on. But our trumpet player, Jack, he's playing the trumpet. Everybody knows what a trumpet looks like. But that other thing he's playing, right, that one that looks like a trumpet with a hangover or something like that, yeah. That's a whole different species of instrument. It's called a flugelhorn, right? And if you look at the trumpet, you'll see that the tube is about the same size as at the beginning as it is before it becomes the bell at the end. And we call it we use the word bore just like a gun, and we call it a cylindrical bore because it's about the same size all the way through. Whereas the flugelhorn, if you look at it, it's smaller up by the mouthpiece, but then it gradually gets fatter and fatter and fatter and fatter. And we call that the conical bore. And that has an amazing amount to do with the way the instruments sound. So Jack, why don't you do what we did this afternoon in the class? Play a little something on the trumpet, and then play the exact same thing on the flugelhorn to give a contrast. A little more toward a French horn, maybe. Yeah, it's like darker quality. Very, very nice to have the two of them there. So that's the flugelhorn. And the other one is our various size saxophones here, right? And so we seem to have all four of the most common members of the food group here. My partner Nick is playing the alto sax, but they're all named for like the voices in a chorus, right? So that's the alto saxophone. That's what David Sanborn plays on so many pop records you've heard. So, and this that I started out with tonight is the tenor, the other most popular one, and the big fellow here is the baritone, which I'm about to play, and the little less people always say, "Oh, what a cute little saxophone! Can you actually play that?" Well, yeah, on a good day, and but that's the soprano saxophone, right? And that's the same instrument that Kenny G plays, except his is straight. But it's if you unwind this thing, it's the same number of inches long. It's just I prefer the one that's all curved up like the other saxophones. So that's our saxophone family. That's our show and tell for the afternoon. All right, now we're going to go back to music playing. As I said before, we're going to slow things down just a little bit with something that's both a ballad and a blues simultaneously. We call this one Sundown Blue. All right, thank you once again. We have one more tune to play in this first half of this afternoon's, or soon to be evening, program. And this is, the title is kind of a funny one, but it's takes me back in the 60s. In my New York days, I was pretty active playing with a lot of the Latino ensembles, Cuban, Puerto Rican groups in New York, and made many friends there. And there was this this kid that came by. He was only about 15 years old, but he was already 6'6" and about that same dimension wide. I mean, he was 6 feet any direction you looked, you know, just a truly big guy. He was this terrifically talented bass player. His name was Eddie Martinez, and he went on to become one of the most sought-after bass players in the Latino scene in all of New York. But he was just a kid then, just coming out breaking it, and I was madly trying to learn my Spanish and get things, how it is with a language, a word here and a phrase there and everything. So I noticed that all of his friends called him guagua. I said, okay, what does that mean? They said, oh, that's Puerto Rican nonsense. He said, that's our slang. That's the sound of the bus horn in San Juan. We're just kidding Eddie, he's as big as a bus, Oh, okay, good. So you got these buses in San Juan that go guagua. Wow, that's it. So it was about a year and a half, maybe 2 years later, I got my first opportunity to go down to the islands and play. I'm walking down the street of San Juan, and a bus went by. And I looked at it. I said, oh, wow. And then I saw another bus. I said, wait a minute. That's the exact same General Motors product that I used to ride around in Chicago when I was a kid. What is this? Every American knows that the horn goes beep, beep, right? But it's a very, very important lesson in that the language you speak has an awful lot to do with the way you hear, the way you hear music. That accounts for a lot of why all these various musics from all over the world sound so different, right? Because it has to do with the language. So that sound of the bus horn, if you're a Spanish-speaking Puerto Rican, it's guagua, right? Not beep, beep. That's American, guagua. And so I always remembered that story. So that's the title of this tune, and for what the kind of the style or the groove is, it's a little bit of a hybrid. Someone just asked me this week, and I said, well, it's like the illegitimate child of a Cuban Mozambique and an American military march. So you decide. We're going to play this and then take a brief intermission while that film is shown, and we'll be back for much more in the second half too. Guagua. Thank you. The UW Jazz Composers Group. We're going to be back very shortly, and now there's going to be a film, 13 minutes long. 13 minutes. Right? Don't go away, please.
Thank you so much, Les, and another round of applause for our incredible Jazz Composers Group. Unbelievable performance. Thank you so much.
So I'm back again with Paula Panczenko, the director of Tandem Press, and we spoke, of course, for the very first of these shows, and then had a conversation with Johannes about more of the musical side, but wanted to ask you a few follow-up questions about how this place works. I think this place is kind of a mystery to a lot of people, and in fact to me, I'm learning as we go as well, which is fun. And I want to tell the viewers that we are actually at Tandem Press. I wish we were at the studio and I could tell you that these lovely pieces of art back here belong to us, but we are in fact at Tandem Press, and so you're going to hear the sounds of Tandem Press in the background. So the first thing I want to talk about is the funding. So you do a lot of educational programming, and we talked a little bit about that in October, but like a lot of entities at UW, you raise a lot of your own funding, like 80% of your own funding, correct?
Yes.
So how do you do that?
Well, we're an educational entity, as you pointed out. So we bring in artists from all over the United States to make editions of prints. And the background to that, which I may have mentioned in our last interview, was that Bill Wiggy founded Tandem Press. He was a member of the art department. And his idea was that the students in the art department are taught by their professors all the various techniques. But to actually see the creative process, he felt it would be a great idea to bring in professional artists who earn their living entirely by creating their own work. And getting the students to learn both success and failure in terms of creativity. And so that is what we do here, and that's the whole reason for us being here. But we have a product at the end of that, and it was also Bill's idea that the university would not have to pay for the running of Tandem Press. So when the artists have been here and have worked with our printers and created editions of prints with the assistance of the graduate students, we then sell the prints on a national and international level. So, for example, we were in New York in October at a print fair, and we were in Chicago in September, and in just this month, December, we will be in Miami. So the whole art world from throughout the world gathers in Miami in December, and we do a print fair down there where we sell our prints to galleries, museums, corporate consultants, and private collectors.
That is excellent. I mean, yeah, what better way to do it? And are the prints that you're selling, are they created both by the professionals who are showing the students and the students themselves, or is it just one? Is it just one or the other?
The prints are all created by the artists.
Okay.
And the printers are they would describe themselves as the craftspeople who essentially then edition the prints. And they also advise the artists based on their artworks what the best medium for those artists would be. So we have a very broad range of work, of techniques that we can enable artists to do. We can enable them to do woodblock printing, silkscreen printing, lithography, etching, and we also can do some digital printing. And we can do combinations thereof. So for example, behind us, we have a woodblock print by Judy Pfaff. It has gold leaf, it has hand painting, and you can see here the silver leaf, which is all colored, and we acquire that colored, and the artist actually rubbed that silver leaf into the ink when it was wet. So the students also have a fantastic opportunity to see the creativity of the artists. But Judy Pfaff is one of our most successful artists. And so she decides at the end of a residency at Tandem whether she likes a print or not. She thinks this one is good and this one isn't. So she came here actually for 8 years. And at the end of 8 years and many visits, she finally decided she liked 11 prints. And those 11 prints, she signed RTP, which means right to print. And that gives the printers the right to print them. Okay. And so the students got to observe that very long process of really working out her contentment with these particular prints. And then the printers print them. And the very large one behind you, there are only 12 of those which can be made, according to the artist. Okay. She says she wants just 12 in the edition. Okay. In this one, there's 30 right behind me in the edition. Okay. And the artist makes up his or her mind about that, and then we make, with the assistance of the printers, 12 in that instance, 30 in this instance, and then we take them out into the world and sell them. And all the proceeds come back into the running of Tandem Press.
Okay. Because there is an artistic process involved, not only in creating this thing, but I assume also in duplicating, right? So when you have 12 copies of something, do they all end up identical, or are they nearly identical, or how does that work?
Well, that also depends on the artist.
Okay.
So in some instances, they are absolutely identical, even though they are done by hand. The artists will come back and go through every single image to make sure it is exactly the way they want it before they sign it.
Wow.
Other artists want what would be called a varied edition. In other words, some artists like to have the variants in them and give permission for that. So it does vary. Okay. From artist to artist, but many artists are very meticulous about how they want to have their work done.
I believe it. Now, speaking of artwork, you're putting in a new gallery. So, what works are you planning to have in the gallery, and what do you hope to achieve with the new space?
Well, in our opening show, we will show some of our existing artists, but our plan is, as artists come in, we hope to show the community other work that they have done besides what they're doing at Tandem Press. So, for example, it's always easier for someone who wants to know more about an artist. As you know, all our artists give lectures at the museum, so people can hear about the artist's work at the Chazen Museum. But I remember my art history teacher telling me many years ago, you have to look, see. You have to see the original work, not just as a slide or a digital image on the screen. And so we hope to show some of the other works by these artists who visit us, so that people will have a much better understanding of the depth of their work.
And had you had a gallery space previously which was just much smaller, or did you not have a space like this at all for people to easily come in and see these works?
We have not had a gallery space.
I didn't think so. Okay.
And,
so this is a big deal.
This is a big deal.
Yeah.
And this is a big experiment, and we're really excited about it. And we have to thank our landlord who donated the space to us, because he actually studied art history. And so that's Apex Properties, and they are fascinated by the art process that goes on here. And so they donated the space, and then we had very kind donors, Paula and David Kramer, who paid for the construction that's going on in the space. So that's very exciting too. And I think the artists will be very excited when they come, because they'll have the opportunity to show other work. Now, the other thing that we will do is, we've talked about this internally, many of the students who work here are also artists. So we're going to give an opportunity to some of the graduate students who work here to display their work too, because we feel that would be, in addition to our educational mission of what we do, introducing the students to artists, also allowing these artists who have done, these students who have done so much for us, to also, that we would give something back to them as well.
Right. And I need to give you credit for giving this attention to the students, and it's as you're doing with the Friday night jazz series. You're letting these students come in and show what they've got, and I think that students don't get all that much opportunity to display their talent, whether it be visual art or music art. So thank you for that. And you had spoken earlier when we were talking about the artists who you work with and your new gallery. And I assume that the new gallery is going to give you some opportunities to bring in some artists. Who do you plan to bring in the next year or so?
Well, we're going to have some artists who will return, and then we're going to have some new artists. One of the great advantages of, for example, when we showed in New York at the print fair, we met several artists whom we wanted to invite to come here. And so one of the new artists will be an artist called Robert Kelly, and then we will have various artists coming back. We'll have Robert Cottingham. We hope that we can have Alison Saar come back because she is such an exciting artist. And then we'll have one of the artists who was here at the very beginning of Tandem Press, Suzanne Caparel. So we're very excited about the range of people we can bring in and the opportunity we can give them to show other work.
Terrific. Well, thank you for this information. I'm learning a lot, and I'm sure everyone watching is as well. And the concert series is a truly wonderful thing, which I know that you brought in because you believe in combining the performing arts with the visual arts, and I very much appreciate that, as I know do the people who attend. And you and your colleagues here have just been so excellent to work with, and my colleague Audrey Martinovich and I very much appreciate all that you do.
Well, we've had a ton of fun.
Good deal.
And we're very grateful to Audio Arts for doing this and for broadcasting it for us and live streaming it. And it's a great opportunity. And I think it's wonderful for the School of Music students working primarily under Johannes and his colleagues, Johannes Wallmann, to be exposed to larger audiences. And we are really excited to have them. So we feel that the whole place is helping students and also promoting the arts.
It is indeed. Thank you, Paula.
Thank you.
So thank you very much, and welcome to our second half. That opening was a tune, kind of a little jam session tune we have that a little less writing, a little more blowing, a little looser form than some of our things. We've titled that one Freebooter, which is an old-fashioned 19th century term that simply meant a pirate, right? So it's a dirty, slow minor blues. We decided it was pirate-like, right? Next piece of music, we're going to change over into a meter of 3. And now this 7-piece band we have here, this is our UW band. We've been going now, this is our 4th year. And previous to that, if we go back into the mid-90s, we started this group. We played out, it was not a UW group, it was the Les Thimmig 7. And we did it, and one member of our group had a rather annoying personal habit that used to sometimes get to us, and so we titled this tune in honor of him and his personal proclivities. We titled this one Secondhand Smoke. That's subtle, right? Okay, thank you once again. I'm going to have a drink. It's in my contract. I'm allowed to. Okay. Of course, we put our attention on the whole group here. You know, we try to pass all the solos around and have a couple of solos and have an ensemble, and then let the horns rest a minute and let the rhythm section play, and then we come back. Try to keep it all going with the emphasis on all 7 people pretty equally. We do our best to be equal. But once in a while, we like to have one member of the group stand out and put that person in the spotlight, and the rest of us can retire to the back a little bit. And so this next piece of music is going to do that very thing with our bassist, Mr. Aidan Steer. So we're going to feature him out of tune. And of course, the bass player playing a solo, that's an old joke in jazz, because in the earliest days of jazz, bass players never played a solo, right? But today, some of the best players we know are the bass players, and they most certainly play solos. So we kid the players a lot, but at the same time, we love to hear them take the solo spot. So this is a tune, it's based on an old pop tune. The structure is, and we just kind of put a sort of a bebop new melody on it. And there's a clue to the title of the old thing in this title. So here we are. Aidan Steer on bass in our tune called Just Who and Why. Hayden Steer, the bass guy. All right, I promised you the work of two composers within the group. We had one the first half. Now it's time for the other one. Our pianist, Tyler Lustig, has written a very, very nice tune for us that, of course, he puts me in an embarrassing spot because I still can't pronounce this word right, even though I've lived in the state of Wisconsin for 47 years now. I still can't say it, but it's, I'll try. Ninth and Chippewa. Is that it? Yeah? Okay. When I first came to here, I said, oh, Chippewa. No, Chippewa. No, Chippewa. No. It took me 3 years to get that out right, but I just got the Tyler seal of approval. So my night has been made. That's all right. That's it. Ninth and Chippewa, which is, he won't tell us what that address is, but I mean, that's what it is. Here, Tyler's brand new tune. So we're getting down to near the bottom of our show tonight, and you've met a few of the people in the band, but let's pretend that's never happened, and let's meet the whole band, all right? So down here in the far right, our trombonist, Mr. Steve Beta. Jack Mulvey plays the trumpet and that funny-looking flugelhorn. My saxophone partner is Mr. Nick Urban. At the keyboard, our composer in residence, Mr. Tyler Lustig. And once again, Aidan Steer on bass. And the other member of our writers' workshop, Jordan Kowalski, on drums. Oh yeah, I'm Les. I work here too. Yeah. Okay, we have one more tune for you tonight, and it's got, it's I think a strong candidate for the goofiest title of anything we've done today, or maybe all year. Some years ago, my son and his wife, they live in Madison now, but what was it, maybe about 10 years ago, they moved out to the Denver area and helped them move, so I drove a truck. And, well, that involves going across Nebraska. Anybody here driven across Nebraska? I mean, really, you know. And so I decided to keep my sanity. That I composed the tune in my head. I played again. I have to keep it in my head. And I'm not allowed to ever write it down if I stop driving or something. Just driving. I just keep everything going, you know. And I made little harmony parts. I just amused myself, you know, like a kid on a rainy Saturday afternoon. And so someplace, you know, approaching the Colorado line or something, this ridiculous phrase popped into my head. You hop, I skip, we all jump. I don't know where that came from. It means nothing. You know, I was not a track star in high school doing the hop, skip, and jump or anything like that. I said, wow, it's just there. Then we got to Boulder, all right, where I hadn't been since, I don't know, some point in the 1970s. And, you know, for those of you who've been to Boulder, it's a city not unlike Madison, you know, similar size, got a big university, everything. Well, in Boulder, they have a three-way City Lines bus system named, maybe you can already figure it out, the hop, the skip, and the jump. All right, so I said, this is a message from on high. It really is. I had to go with it, so as dumb as it sounds. So we made a version for this tune. We have a little more blowing out of it, not a lot of writing, a little more playing. Put the spotlight on a few people in the band. So this is You Hop, I Skip, We All Jump. Soprano, trumpet, drum, singular, drum. Huh? How many pieces? You what? How many pieces? Three. You got time. Okay. Thank you very much. The UW Jazz Composers Group. It's been a lot of fun. We love coming here, right?